What's in the box? The orange box, to be precise. On the surface, it may appear to just be a compilation of 5 masterfully crafted games, but to others, it's way much more than that. For the next video runtime minutes, I'll need you to do me a favor. Let's take ourselves back to the distant past of 2007 and experience what some might consider the pinnacle time to be a gamer. What's inside the orange box? Let's take a peek.
What's inside the orange box? The best game of all time. Brain melting offbeat genius. The deepest multiplayer game of the year. The Orange Box, October 10. Rated T2M.
Wow, that all sounds great. I get 5 awesome games for the price of 1. Nowadays, you barely get 1 game for the price of 1. But what exactly are the games you're getting? Okay, I guess I'll list the games now. So you're saying I get Half-Life 2, which is considered to be one of the greatest games of all time, and its first episodic sequel, Half-Life 2 Episode 1. Those games have been out forever. I've beaten them hundreds of times. Aren't there any new ones inside? Well, you're in luck, because you're also getting 3 brand new games. Half-Life 2 Episode 2, which continues the story of crowbar enthusiast Gordon Freeman and his friends as they progress their quest to take on the Combine, save the planet, and rebuild society. There's Team Fortress 2, the class-based online-only multiplayer shooter that's a sequel to Valve's original class-based online-only multiplayer shooter, Team Fortress Classic. The final game is Portal, a puzzle game where you use a gun to solve your problems. Except this gun doesn't make bullet holes, it makes portal holes that you can walk through, and you must use this unique gameplay mechanic in a variety of ways. The beauty of the orange box is more than just the sum of its parts. Sure, all of the games inside are great, but this marks a moment in time when Valve was on top of the world. They had been pumping out hit after hit, and things were only looking up from here. This isn't exactly a review of the games included in the orange box, but more or less a video about the box itself, and what made it stand out during a year with releases like Mario Galaxy, Mass Effect, BioShock, and Uncharted. Sure, I'll be talking about the games. How could I not? But my opinion on them isn't what's most important. I threw together a tier list plus my feelings explained section for you, so we could get caught up on the same page. Doing a tier list of the games on the orange box, or box layer-ons as I've been calling it. Okay, I replayed these games for this video, so these will be in order. Alright, my first game is going to be Portal, and it's going to be S tier, and that's because Portal is one of my favorite games of all time. It's so well made, so well written, and so well executed. I might goosh more about Portal later, we'll see. Alright, Half-Life 2 is my next S tier game, and there isn't much more that I can say about it other than it's fantastic, and it holds up really well, which was both a big surprise, but also not a surprise at all. Team Fortress 2 is going to be my third S tier game. It's also the game that got me into online FPSs. I like how each class is unique, and you can find one that suits your playstyle. I mained Medic in Demo, by the way. Alright, the next game is going to be Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and that's going to be A tier. I love how this is a less linear experience than the other games in the Half-Life series, and the latter half of it is really intense. And also, that cliffhanger, ooh boy, I can't wait to see what they do next. Okay, and then my final one is going to be Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and it'll also be in the A tier. Alex Vance is my favorite character in the Half-Life universe, and I really enjoyed how she was a major focus in this. I just wish the game was a little bit longer and had a bit more variety in gameplay. It's not that I think Episode 1 or 2 are bad by any means, they just had a really tough act to follow. They are definitely worth playing back to back after Half-Life 2 though. You know, that was pretty easy. I guess I only needed 2 letters. You know something? There's a lot of 2s in these titles. There are 5 games in the orange box, and 4 of the 5 games have the number 2 in them. Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and Half-Life 2 Episode 2. That last one even has 2 2s. Portal was the only one left out. Don't worry, little guy. We'll get you a 2 soon. After the orange box, Valve has gone on to make 4 more games with the number 2 in them. Left 4 Dead 2, Dota 2, Counter-Strike 2, and of course, Portal 2. See, I got your back, little guy. Valve has never released a game with the number 3 in it. I wonder if that's intentional. Speaking of intentions, why is it called the orange box? I wondered this myself and did some digging. But before I get to spill those orange beans, I need to tell you the legend of the black box. Apparently, Valve had planned to release other color variants. The only confirmed one was going to be called the Black Box, with only the new content from the orange box in it. This was scrapped. Well, technically, you could have gotten the Black Box if you bought certain ATI Radeon graphics card bundles, but all you were getting was the CD key for the 3 new games to add to your Steam library. You wouldn't be getting a physical copy of the Black Box, only an email saying you owned it. So a black box is a real thing. Well, it's a real scientific theory. It's complicated, so let this layman lay it out for you, man. A black box system requires 3 parts: the input, the black box, and the output. The input might not be information you understand. That's what the black box is for. It receives that information and outputs it in a way that's digestible. Video games are a great example of a black box system. The video game studio would be the input, providing the game with assets and coding. The black box being the video game itself, and the output would be what you see on your screen and how you interact with it. You don't necessarily need to know or understand the process involved in making the game to enjoy it. Even though Valve hasn't confirmed this is what the naming of the black box is based on, I think I'm probably right. It's a really cool parallel that takes the black box namesake literally, and I think that's neato. This isn't the first time Valve has named a game after some sciencey bullshit either. A half-life is a term used in nuclear physics and directly relates to the themes of that game series. So I assumed an orange box had to also be a real thing. Maybe even within the same realm as the black box. It is not. The only reason it's called the orange box is because that's Gordon Freeman's favorite color, and it comes in a box. All of my research wasted! Or is it? I did find some interesting real-world orange box related things I can still share with you. There is actually something called an orange box that exists, but there is no way it's what Valve is referencing. If you're a phone freak, you'd know that freaking boxes are color-coded based on what they do. An orange box allows the phone freaker to spoof caller ID information on someone's phone. I guess that's good if you're into prank calls, you phone freak. And if you don't mind, we gotta go back to the black box for just a minute. Airplanes have a black box in them that records inputs and flight data from planes and audio from pilots. In case something goes wrong, the airline can retrieve the information stored on the black box and try to prevent future accidents. I assumed these black boxes would in fact be black boxes, but that's a misnomer. They're actually required to be painted bright orange. 2007 was a great time in the video games industry. The Wii had just come out and was getting everyone involved in gaming, even Grandpa. Games like Halo 3 and World of Warcraft were changing what online multiplayer was capable of. Gaming was becoming a bigger, more inclusive space, and games themselves were innovating in ways never seen before, and Valve took notice. In what ways could they change the playing field? Episodic content. In theory, it sounds great, right? Instead of having to wait forever to experience the next full release, game companies can give you smaller experiences more frequently. Companies like Telltale have done this and achieved critical and commercial success. So why wouldn't the company behind the best game of all time at least give it a shot? After Half-Life 2's knockout success, Valve decided they weren't done telling the Half-Life 2 story yet. So they planned to release episodes that would eventually, I suppose, lead up to the release of Half-Life 3. I don't think Half-Life 2 Episode 3 would be Half-Life 3. I think that would be an entirely new game in a new engine. Maybe they'll make 9 episodes, like Star Wars! I do think including the base game and both of the episodes on the Orange Box was a great call though. It gave a lot of people an opportunity to experience all of Half-Life 2. Well, I mean all of Half-Life 2 up to this point. My guess is that future episodes would be released on those other rumored boxes I mentioned earlier. Like I said at the beginning of this video, we're kind of pretending it's 2007, so you'll have to let me know how it worked out back in the future. The Orange Box had a PC release as well as a release on consoles, the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. These console versions mark the downfall of Valve home console releases. The PlayStation 3 version was handled by EA, because porting games to the PS3 was actually really tricky, and EA already had experience doing that. While researching for this video, I found another good one that only recaps the PS3 situation if you want to know about how weird that port is. Consider it supplemental. The 360 version was handled in-house by Valve, which had a much smoother development and release. The actual issues came directly from Microsoft. Back in the day, Microsoft would only allow one free update per game, and anything after that required the publisher to pay a 5 to 6 figure fee because Microsoft would have to recertify the game after each update to see if anything went against their terms of service. This was obviously a huge problem for a game like Team Fortress 2, which Valve had planned on updating for free for their player base. Even though TF2 was a standalone experience on a compilation, Microsoft still treated it like the entire Orange Box needed to be recertified for each update, which would cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars each time. Whenever you launch the Orange Box on 360, you would see this menu that has all of the games in a nice little row that you can pick and then play. On PC, this is different. You purchase the Orange Box and then each individual game is available to select right from your Steam library. So if Valve wanted to update TF2 on Steam, they could choose to just update TF2's standalone version instead of the entire Orange Box. The only real option would be to make console players wait for updates, even if they were fixing game-breaking bugs, because it made more sense to update all the games on the Orange Box at once instead of individually. Luckily, there wasn't crossplay back then, but this still seems very unfair for people who can't or don't want to play on PC. This set Team Fortress 2 up for failure on consoles, and it died pretty quickly thereafter, only to thrive on PC. After this debacle, only a handful of Valve games would be brought to home consoles before they just stopped porting them and only made them native to PC. There was a Portal re-release on Nintendo Switch that came out recently in time with this video though. Now, let's talk about what's actually inside of the Orange Box. It's just a list of the controls in 2 discs, but on those 2 discs is where the magic happens. If you combine all of the Half-Life 2s together into one giant homunculus and sat it next to Team Fortress 2 and Portal, you'd have 3 completely different experiences that all complement each other. The rumors are true though. They are all first-person shooters, but I think they each offer a wildly different experience. Team Fortress 2 is an online-only game with no single player. The class system in the game allows you to pick and choose who you want to play and what class-specific weapons you want to use. This helps comprise your team in a balanced way and is unlike anything else in the box. It also has a very mid-century corporate propaganda-inspired art style that's still striking even to this day. The Half-Life 2 games are single-player experiences that feel familiar because it is familiar. It's Half-Life 2. It set the standard for first-person shooters, both in gameplay and in storytelling, and both episodes add more into this. There are puzzles, but I think the main focuses of Half-Life 2 are the narrative and the combat. And then there's Portal.
Warning! Incoming! Goosh! Detected!
I love Portal. It's one of my favorite games of all time. The reason I bought the orange box was for the new Half-Life episodes and for Team Fortress 2. So I played those first. I had heard things about Portal, like it was short and that it was good, but that was it. I didn't even know why it was called Portal. After I beat all of the Half-Life 2s and played a bunch of TF2, I decided it was time to check it out. And boy, did it change my little gamer brain. You are limited to solving puzzles with only the use of 2 portals. Each puzzle is considered a test chamber, and each chamber has a correct solution. But it's up to you to figure out how to get there. Valve didn't originally come up with the idea for Portal, by the way. It was originally something called Narbacular Drop, which was the senior project of the 2005 graduating class at DigiPen University. Valve saw their little game demo at a career fair and fell in love with it, and then they hired most of the seniors who worked on it. I think this is a really rad success story. Obviously, they did have to make some adjustments, the big one being the setting. Originally, it was fantasy, but Valve had to change that. They don't do fantasy. All of their games are grounded in realism. So Valve put Portal in the Half-Life universe, which is why both of them have the most similarities in terms of art direction and some gameplay experiences. But the reliance on only puzzle solving in Portal makes it unparalleled. Like Half-Life 2 and Team Fortress 2, there is combat in Portal, but it's mostly just dropping boxes on little turrets and slapping around a big robot AI thing in indirect ways. You might not have known this, and it's probably because it hasn't gone anywhere yet, but these games do briefly reference each other in Half-Life 2 Episode 2 and Portal.
Our peers at Aperture Science were at work on a project of some promise, but in their rush to beat Black Mesa for funding, Aperture Science, Black Mesa,
Aperture Science, Black Mesa.
Aperture Science. We do what we must because we can. Maybe Black Mesa. That was a joke. Haha, that chance. Aperture Science. Black Mesa.
All of the games on the orange box are great in their own right, but Portal really hit it off in the mainstream due to its clever writing and unique gameplay. But I think the memeable themes were what really took the cake. The cake is a lie. He said the joke. Why aren't you laughing? He said it. I can't really think of another compilation from a developer that featured 3 brand new games on it. Seriously, try to name one. I can't think of any. Valve took a massive chance by putting the orange box out there, and it ended up being the best thing they could have done at the time, not only for themselves, but for fans of their games. In hindsight, I feel like we took it for granted. There isn't much more I can say about these games that hasn't been said already. They are all fantastic, and I highly recommend giving them a try if you somehow missed out. You can still buy the orange box on Steam if you don't already own the games individually yet. It's sort of like a participation trophy. Yeah, I was there for that. It's now backwards compatible on Xbox One. Unfortunately, I can't experience that because I got the VHS Xbox One and it barely works anymore because I never used it. It's just my rare replay machine at this point. If you can, I recommend playing them on PC for the best possible experience. One thing I have to give Valve is how easily and readily available they have made most of their games. And as someone who is big into game preservation, I think all of those games deserve to be preserved. Going back and revisiting not just the games on the orange box, but the box itself has been so refreshing. I, for one, am excited for the future. Speaking of the future, we have to get back to the present. I can't wait to see what Valve has been up to. I bet there are so many new episodes of Half-Life 2. I bet Team Fortress 2 is absolutely thriving. I bet all of their new games are just as creative and as innovative as Portal. And I bet there are all kinds of new color boxes just waiting to be cracked open. See you later, 2007. It's been nice knowing you. Whoa! Whoa! Oh man, that was crazy. Wait a minute. Where is everything?